Hello, my name is Val Schwartz, and I'm the head of admissions at NC State's Institute for Advanced Analytics. And today I am delighted to speak with not just one, but two of our wonderful Master of Science in Analytics alumni. Would the two of you mind introducing yourselves?
Yeah, absolutely, Val. It's great to be speaking with you again. Hi, everyone. I'm Chesaney and Kooy. I graduated with the class of 2020, and I am currently with Elder Research as a client engagement manager.
And my name is Taylor Kooy. I was also in the class of 2020 where I met my beautiful wife. And I work with a software company out of Exton, Pennsylvania called iPipeline. And my current job title is Data Analytics Lead Engineer.
Excellent. Thank you both so much for that. I am so excited to have you here. It's always great to reconnect with people whom I've known since before you were even enrolled in the program. So on that note, before you were enrolled here, so you are both from Michigan. What prompted your decision to come to Raleigh for grad school?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was definitely a journey, and I was lucky enough to have a very great role model and mentor in my life, a good family friend. And he actually worked for SAS, so he was very familiar with NC State. He led me to the program. I went and toured it and knew that that was my only option for grad school. So I was set from there.
And then kind of on a similar story, NC State was not even on my radar. When I was graduating undergraduate, I knew I wanted to go on for my master's, and I had found a few programs across the country that I was interested in, but NC State didn't come up on my radar. And I was very fortunate that I had a professor at Grand Valley who was very close with another alumni from Grand Valley, Elizabeth Stoltz, who went to the program a few years before we did. And he got us connected. I talked to her a little bit about the program and just learned about it, and I was sold from there.
That's great to hear. Well, I'm so glad that you both ended up here, even if it was not necessarily in a linear fashion. So now thinking back on your time while you were here in the MSA program, and both of you were practicum team leads as well, just keeping that in mind. So what are some of the skills that you either acquired or strengthened while you were here at the Institute that you use regularly now in your work today?
So I think the one big thing for me that I take away, and because you mentioned the practicum experience, was the learning from that. And one of the big takeaways, kind of looking back now, was that within this breadth and this realm of data science, there are a ton of really cool and interesting things you can do. The problem is, though, it has to at some point relate back to what the client is looking for and what is the practical application of what you're trying to work with. And so I think for me, that was one of the lessons from practicum learning that I've now taken into work, that at the end of the day, kind of going back to client, what do they need? What helps them? There could be a really cool opportunity for some sort of machine learning model that can make a decision. But if the client really just needs a basic report that maybe has some business logic in there, at the end of the day, that's what's going to solve the problem.
I'll echo that as well. I think the Institute did a great job of emphasizing the business applications and not being too academic, where you couldn't apply the learnings to a business sense. That's definitely something that's helped me as well. A couple other things, Taylor brought up the practicum projects. It was really great to have that low stakes leadership experience. I got to realize all the things that I was terrible at as a leader and got to learn and grow from that so that I can apply that in the real world where it matters a little bit more in the workspace. And then the final point that I'll bring up is we learn a lot of things and we learn them very fast. And that is a fantastic skill to have in the workspace, just being able to pick up stuff and pick up on it quick. You can't know everything coming out of the program, but you know how to pick up on those things that you will be exposed to very rapidly.
Absolutely. Yeah, great to hear you mention all of those specific points. So, and you both kind of started to touch on this a little bit because you both obviously are interacting with clients on a regular basis. Can you talk a little bit more about the kinds of projects in your day-to-day jobs that you most enjoy working on?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm doing some sort of like risk analytics work right now. My first project, the first client that I had at Elder Research, we were doing some insider threat work, which I found very interesting. All of my projects have had a very large variety of work. That's something that I enjoy, from the modeling side to the BI side of things and putting together dashboards and presenting the findings and insights to the client. Just having that variety of work, which goes back to my point of just being able to be exposed to many different things and pick up on anything thrown your way.
So kind of touching back on something I mentioned earlier, like just the breadth of the space of data science for me, I really found in my work that some of the two projects that I really enjoy working on right now, one of them is actually on more the BI side. So it's just very simply working with a client who might not have access to this data and trying to visualize and give them as much of an understanding as possible, working with them, very iterative approach. Okay, here's what we've built out. What's missing? What could be done better? How can we help you as best as possible, and really engaging with them in that way. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have a couple of models out in production right now. And one of them is looking at a binary classification where it's basically the thumbs up or thumbs down. And so working with that data and trying to realize, well, how can we work with the input features to try and make as an accurate model as possible. So really looking at kind of both spectrums of the data science realm.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that you both get a lot of diversity in your work. I think that makes it a lot more interesting and engaging. So
definitely.
So let's shift gears on a more personal note. So Taylor, you mentioned when you were making your introduction that the two of you met while you were here in the program. So tell us more about that. How did the two of you end up getting together?
So it's kind of funny looking back at our time at the Institute, because we knew each other at the start. And I think when we had the first like icebreaker session, we actually got partnered up for a little bit. And I was like, oh, you're from Michigan too. That's ironic. And we went to rivalry undergrad schools, but kind of the summer through the fall, we were friends and we hung out here and there, but I don't think things really started to take off until the year flipped over to January. With the Institute, I kind of got out of my routine of going to the gym. And so I knew Chess was leading a group with the Institute with a few people there. And I said, hey, can you help me try and get back into this routine? So kind of started from that aspect. And we started interacting more, built closer friendship. And then I can kind of let you take over from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of what we were talking about at the beginning before we got into the interview portion of this, Val, that we both kind of had our paths planned out, or we thought we did before we came to the Institute. And that obviously changed. Taylor was originally planning to move back to Michigan, and we're in Tennessee now. So obviously those plans didn't quite work out how either of us intended.
Yes. Yep.
I thought I was going to end up in North Carolina ultimately, which I did, but now we're in Tennessee. And I obviously didn't go to the program to try to find my husband, although that's a great perk. Can't guarantee that everyone will have that experience, but it is pretty cool. So yeah, we grew closer and closer, and COVID actually played a really big factor in how we ended up getting together. There was a lot of bad that came out of COVID, but there's also some good, especially for us. Our leases went through the end of May, and so we decided just to stick around. The regulations in Michigan were kind of crazy when COVID first started, so we at least had more of a freedom to do things outside in North Carolina, and it just happened that we were both there, so we started doing a bunch of outdoorsy things together and just grew closer and closer until we realized that we're meant to be together, and our crazy paths that didn't turn out how they planned were how they were ultimately supposed to end up.
It's funny how that happens sometimes.
Absolutely.
Now, so I think we have to share the fun fact. Who officiated your wedding?
It is Dr. LeBar. He saw a lot of our story unfold, and we couldn't have imagined anyone else who would be better to do it.
I love
So
that.
when Jess was originally thinking about telling me that she had feelings, she kind of had a conversation with Dr. LeBar and like help me think through the situation. And after Jess and I guess, had officially been dating for about a month, I gave him a call and said, hey, I'm thinking about proposing. Help me think through this process. Am I crazy here? What's going on? And so, yeah, he got to see the full spectrum. And so it was wonderful that he was willing to officiate for us.
He probably knew we were going to end up together before we knew.
Yeah.
We were going to.
NC State's MSA program, come for the degrees, stay for the spouse. So
Yeah. I've had people tell me that I got my MRS degree there too. 2 degrees.
So we really mean we talk about ROI, right? No, but-
Yeah, no kidding. Instant.
So you kind of started to mention this a little bit, but what do you do for fun? I know you love outdoorsy things, but why don't you expand on that stuff a little bit?
So yeah, absolutely. Like Jess said, that's kind of how we first got started together. That's one of the reasons we moved out to Tennessee. So we love hiking. We have a beautiful state park near us, and then we have the National Smoky Mountain Park that we do some hiking at. We're right by Cherokee Lake in Tennessee, and so we spend a lot of time on the water where we either bring the kayaks out, or we have gotten lazier the last few weeks and we just brought the inner tubes out there and floated around. But yeah, anything that we can do outside, we absolutely love to be able to do that.
Yeah, really just any way to get movement in. We both start our mornings out getting into the gym, getting a workout in together. I guess a motivator is we sit at our desks for a good portion of the day. And so it's always nice to get some movement in, get outside and move our bodies
Yep.
in any way possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Well, Chesaney, Taylor, thank you so much. This has been a delight. And I look forward to hearing how your careers continue to unfold over these coming years.
Thank you for having us, Val. It was great catching up.
Yes, thank you very much.